Thank you very much. I'm Lindmore Morissette. I'm a marine biologist, as you've said. And I'm also the author of a book entitled Pêcheurs et baleines en Gaspésie, sur le chemin de la coexistence, on the path of coexistence for whales and fishers in Gaspésie. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share my experience with you today. I've taken the time to carefully read the brief on the reopening of cod fishing, and while I leave it to the experts to discuss quotas and the technical aspects of fishing, my goal today is to talk to you about the approach. Because beyond the numbers, what we need to find is the best recipe for effectively protecting our marine ecosystems and the resources they contain. We're in the era of climate urgency and biodiversity collapse. We no longer have the luxury of overlooking anyone's knowledge. It is crucial to integrate fishermen and Indigenous communities into the heart of decision-making processes, not only in Newfoundland, Labrador, but across all Canadian fisheries. What struck me most in this brief is the importance of actively involving fishers and Indigenous people in the management of these resources. They are the experts on the ground. They observe changes in fish stocks, currents, and reproductive cycles, lots of different elements that are essential that often escape theoretical models. Their knowledge is invaluable, and without their participation, we lose a vital compass. We've seen this time and again. I've been able to see this elsewhere, in particular for crab and lobster fishers in the Gulf of the St. Lawrence, where we also work with the North Atlantic whales. And this really is crucial for the survival of this species that's endangered. And often there's been a lack of dialogue, a lack of collaboration, and a particular lack of trust between the fishers and the decision makers. And what I've learned when I've spent time with these fishers over the years is that they are not against conservation of resources. Quite the contrary. They're the first who want to actually protect the species. That's their livelihood, but they have to be heard and they have to be respected and included in the process. Too often decisions are taken without them and without their precious expertise, and this, of course, creates distrust and tension. Collaboration with fishers is not just a plus, rather it's necessary. Their local expertise is based on generations of experience, and it's a real plus to better understand the dynamics with our fish stock species, and we see this with cod. It's the fishers who set off the alarm bells about the collapse of the stocks, and unfortunately their warnings have been ignored by the scientific authorities back then, and this has led us to where we are today. And today we have the opportunity to correct that mistake. Cod is perhaps recovering, but management of cod will not be successful unless we truly integrate fishers not just as passive participants but as co-managers of this resource, because they're the ones who are out on the sea day after day to observe changes in the ecosystem. They're the ones that have the capacity to actually flag anomalies and what's not going well, often before science is able to do this. So we've seen this with several examples. When fishers are not consulted, there's distrust, there's conflicts that arise. It's true in Newfoundland, in New Brunswick and elsewhere in Canada. And unfortunately, there's a recipe that exists which is called the environmental mediation approach, which is not just about co-management. It's far more than that. It's a method which is very much underused, but it fosters real constructive dialogue between all stakeholders, here fishermen and managers, so that they can find solutions together. And this works well. We've got examples, for example, in Alaska, in the Philippines and in Australia, where this works really well, and the inshore fishers are not asking to exploit a stock in decline. They know that their future is related to healthy ecosystems. They're asking to be heard and included in the decisions that are taken, because the best way to recover and restore stock is to work together. Of course, it's always easier to move forward. We need to integrate fishers. Otherwise, initiatives, whether it's a closure of fishing zones or quotas, are actually doomed to failure. There's lots of different crises, and we cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past. The knowledge of fishermen and Indigenous people is a precious resource that we must integrate into our ocean management. Thank you very much for having given me the opportunity to actually share these thoughts with you, and I hope that this discussion will mark a turning point. I really believe this will be a turning point in the management of our maritime resources and the systematic integration of inshore fishermen and their expertise will be treated as a valuable resource, because it's together that we will ensure a sustainable future for our oceans, our fishing activities, and also our coastal communities. Thank you for your attention today.
Verde, for 5 minutes or less, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the invitation to present here today.